Today I'm going to review a book called My Heart and Other Black Holes by Jasmine Varg. A young adult book about suicide and depression. If you're someone who's sensitive towards depression and suicide, please do not read this book. It's not your book. Don't read it if you're sensitive. I started my year with this book because everybody on BookTube have been selling it like gold, and I thought maybe I should try this book. My Heart and Other Black Hole is a story about a girl named Aysel who's very suicidal and depressive, and she's extremely sad, and the backstory really justifies her sadness and depression, and she feels that she is not capable of committing suicide by her own. So she goes on internet and come across this website where you can find a suicide partner and meet that person and decide and commit suicide together. It's a really bizarre concept to me, but that is how it is executed. I don't know if it exists or not. So she meets this guy named Roman, whose screen name is Frozen Robot. As the story proceeds, we find Aysel considering whether she wants to go through suicide or not. It is a beautiful book to read. It just keeps you into the story, it just keeps you reading, it just doesn't let you diverge into something else. It has a pace that keeps you spellbound to the book. I had very high expectations from this, which really kind of fell short when I read the book. This book touches the theme of depression, suicide, mental illness, and a little bit of domestic abuse. Depression, as portrayed in this book, is very interesting to me because it dismantles the stereotype of depression that a person who's happy or sad cannot be depressed, which is a very common belief that someone who has friends, goes out and laughs and tells jokes cannot be depressed, which is not true. Anybody can be depressed. You cannot just get into the brain of a person and find out what they're thinking or feeling unless they specifically tell you, which a person can choose to tell you or not choose to tell you depending on how the person perceives to express his or her emotions. So I think this is a really good thing about the book, that the book dismantles the stereotype that anybody can be depressed irrespective of what facade they put up. Secondly, I think the most interesting thing about this book is that it portrays a depressed person's perception of the world. Like when Aysel sees the people around her, she feels that everybody hates her and they do not like her, and everybody else in the world has been kind of plotting against her, which is a very correct representation of depression. I believe that it comes with that. Also, this book briefly touches how flickery Aysel's father was before the whole thing happened, which I do not prefer to tell you because it could be a spoiler. It kind of touches the theme of domestic violence. I wish it was explored more in this book because it could have been a very interesting dimension. The thing that I do not like about the book is including romance. If it's a young adult novel, it is not a necessity to include romance in it because it just gives out a wrong perception of how depression works. It could be romanticizing depression, like one depressed person meets another depressed person and they come together, plan a suicide, and bam, they fell in love. And depression is romantic. Depression is not something to be romanticized. The book is written in first person, which is something that I do not think was a good idea. As if the first person is written by someone who has seen depression from outside, not inside. Like someone who's seen depression as second person and is expressing how the first person feels by expressing it through their point of view. In the book, it is very aggressively portrayed that depression is very sad, 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 sad. But depression is a combination of many other emotions, which is anxiety, sadness of course, empathiness, anger, and a hell lot of emotions. It's not just sadness. I don't give it to the book because the book is not able to internalize depression, and I am not able to feel the same thing as a depressed person feel except for sadness. Another thing that is misrepresented in this book is suicide. Suicide is not something that you can put up a date and say, okay, this is the day we're going to commit suicide. It is quite justifiable for Frozen Robot that he wants to commit suicide on April 7th, which is a set up date for him because his backstory and his family tragedy, whatever it is justifying this thing. But this is not the case with Aysel. Aysel cannot put up a date over there and say, yeah, I'm going to commit suicide on that date. It sounds fine. It's not like that. It's not an appointment. It's not something that just you can plan. Suicide can be triggered by anything, absolutely anything, depending on the person who's internalizing the feeling of depression and suicide. And any depressed person can feel that feeling at any time. You cannot set up a date that, okay, this day is cool with me, I'm gonna commit suicide on that day. And so this book really misleads in a way how suicide happens, because it's a movement of madness, it's not a planned thing. So I gave this book about 3.5 stars on Goodreads. I would recommend this book to anybody who enjoys reading young adult fiction, and anybody who wants to get a brief or outside idea of what depression and suicide, and anybody who wants to get a brief idea of what depression and mental health is pertaining to. Anyways, I'm reading another book. If you like a book review kind of video, do let me know, and I'll make more book review videos, because the next book I'm reading is very serious business. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed my book review. Let me know if you want me to do more videos of any certain particular kind. Bye!